bitch, you a bird, you thigh, you learn, you see, I earn, you stop. A word, I shoot, no rim, I'm high, you burn, I'm me, that's him, you nah, that's word.
What's up, fight fans? My name is Anik Subramanian. I am a journalist for the Scrap News. On March 30th at UFC Atlantic City, Angel Pacheco will make his UFC debut against the Irishman Caolan Loughran. Today, I'm here with the man behind Minnesota, the Warrior, Angel Pacheco. First of all, Angel, how are you doing today and how's training camp been?
I'm doing pretty good. Training camp's been awesome. Minnesota weather's been great, so that's awesome also.
Speaking of training camp, I know you train at Start BJJ in Minnesota. You also did some of your last training camp with the New England Cartel boys. What's the plan for where you're training for this fight?
Yeah, so just like last time, I did pretty much half and half. So I started my camp off in Minnesota, and that's what I'm doing this time around. And then February 25th, I'll be heading out to New Hampshire, training with the cartel again until the fight.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, you are fighting a guy in Caolan Loughran who gets a crowd going, for better or for worse. In his last fight, he flipped off the whole French crowd against a French opponent. He got booed like crazy when he lost. He does get people to tune in. You get people to tune in because you have interesting fights. Does this trash talk make you want to shut him up even more, or do you not care?
Honestly, I don't look at social media too much, so like anything he has said about me, whether it be negative or positive, I don't really know. Uh, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Like a lot of people normally get shut up, so
Yeah,
I enjoy being like kind of like how Dan Henderson did with Michael Bisping, right? Like he just I enjoy the fight, and if I get to shut up a big mouth, that's the plus.
I get that. Yeah, and just for the record, that this was his trash talk from his last fight. I don't he hasn't done much media, so he hasn't really said anything about you. So it's all in it's all love right now.
Yeah.
Good to know that. Now if you do get the dub though, you might be able to steal some of his Irish fans. So that would be cool because the Irish fan base is nuts because they're behind McGregor as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. I feel like that like other countries in general kind of back their people pretty hard in comparison to like Americans, obviously. Nothing against the American fans, but it does seem like countries tend to get behind their fighters a little bit more, especially when they get on that big stage. Uh, I don't know if it could be just personalities also. Obviously, Connor's like a huge influence in the sport of MMA and stuff like that. And then, like you were saying, my opponent's a pretty like loud guy in that sense. Like he's a talker. If he feels something, he says it. So I agree. Like I think my fighting style, no matter what, I'm gonna have some fans after the fight, but I do plan on finishing them. So I think it'll be a good little boost to me and just moving forward in the division.
I like that. Yeah, hey, that would be a big win for the US. I do agree with you. I think international fans, because they also have like less fighters in the UFC, they're so loyal to them. Like, for example, win, lose, or draw, someone like Cyril Gane, like the French people are gonna back him from like start to
Absolutely.
finish. And I
Yeah.
think that's why some of these European shows are getting a lot of hype because they are so much behind their fans. We in America, we have been blessed with so many great martial artists that I
Yeah.
do think sometimes like our fans, like we take it for granted. So it's fair to
Yeah.
say. Now, your last fight you fought at featherweight, you've done lightweight as well. Why the drop to bantamweight and how do you feel about that cut?
Um, so yeah, I fought at lightweight before, and that was more like I couldn't find fights at 145 in like my local area kind of thing, like the Midwest pretty much. But as for the reason of the drop down to 35, I actually like the first thing I did once I got into the UFC and everything is like a couple weeks after, or maybe like 4 weeks after my fight, I ended up going out to the UFC PI and just check everything out. Like I think if you're in the UFC, as long as you like, especially if you're in America and you have a PI and you know that to go to and you can figure out everything like the weight classes and all that. So they test your strength, they test your like endurance, they test everything. And then they don't tell you obviously who like it's compared against, but I think they said like 80 or 70% of the roster are in the PI's like database. So you can kind of compare yourself to the rest of your division. From my understanding, I never so first of all, I've never like lifted weights. Like pretty much throughout my career, throughout my life in general, I've never been like a weightlifter. Um, you know, my dad's always got on me about it, like, oh, you need to lift weights, you need to do this, and like I understand, but the biggest thing was I was like afraid to hurt myself, I guess, because the times I had done it, I end up messing my back up or hurting myself in ways or another. So like my last fight, I started lifting a little bit, but it was nothing like heavy. It was more like endurance stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I went out there to see like if I can get on a weight program, I can do all these things, right? Like figure out diet and things like that. Like if you watch my last fight, you can tell like physically my body looks different than Danny's. Like Danny was a little bit bigger than me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I just thought I felt like if they can get me a little bit more strength, a little bit stronger, a little faster, like why not take advantage of the UFC PI? I went out there and then I found out just some things like pretty much talking to the dietitians and all that stuff, that my body is suited for, like for my muscle mass and the amount of fat that I carry and things like that. I'm suited better for 135. uh, I'm not like the biggest 35er, but I'm also like not on the small end. To
Yeah.
where if I stayed at 45, I'm on the small end at 45 because of the muscle mass and things like that. So it just logically made the most sense, if that's where I can compete and in a healthy manner. And that was like the biggest thing. Like I told them, like I don't want to have to kill myself to cut weight in order, to make weight, because my style especially is a condition based style. Like I'm punching a lot, I'm staying on people, like I can't sacrifice that. And they were very confident that they could get me down to 135 comfortably, make weight, be stronger and faster even. So now I'm on a strength and conditioning program through the UFC PI, and I'm in contact with my dietitian pretty much every day, every other day. And yeah, we're figuring it out. I'm liking it a lot so far.
That's awesome, man. I was gonna say, like, rewatching your Dana White Contender Series fight, like, you look smaller. Obviously, you could still hang with the guys at 45, but I think there's a lot of like bantamweight bangers that are there. The bantamweights have so many exciting fighters, ranked or unranked, and I think I'm excited to see what you can do at 135 because I think there's a lot there. Now, I'm gonna jump into location. There were rumors about the UFC coming to Minnesota for that December 2nd, I believe, that card in December, but it seems like Atlantic City was, hey, it's still on the East Coast. I think you have a lot of like people in the Northeast supporting you here. You're also sharing the card with your teammate from the New England Cartel, Connor Matthews. I had the pleasure of speaking with him a couple days ago. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. What have you learned from him as a person and as a training partner through the last couple months?
What I've learned through Connor, honestly, like when I met him, he seemed like a super cool dude and stuff like that. Uh, I did notice right away too, like he's a 45er, like he's a real 45er. He's a big guy. He's like Calvin, they're both pretty big guys. But the biggest thing that stuck out to me was like his work ethic, honestly. Not only the work ethic, but all the traveling he does. I think he was saying like 1 or 2 days a week, he's on the road for at least like 3 or 5 hours or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the dedication he has. Um, his previous like job or whatever you would call it, like being in the military and stuff, very disciplined guy. Um, yeah, I just think he has an awesome work ethic, and I think that like I said, the showing up to all the practices and the conditioning and driving where he goes, and that like just the driving itself will kill you. Like I used to complain about like an hour and a half drive, so pretty much 3 hours on the road, to where like he's on the road for 5, 6 hours sometimes. So uh yeah, I can't complain when when I'm in the room with somebody that's been on the road for that long all day, just got done with conditioning, and then shows up to the practice room and then has to get pushed hard also again. So no, he's an awesome guy. He's a great teammate, and I'm looking forward to training with him pretty soon here.
Yeah. Now, believe it or not, with all this that he's doing, he's also managing his own gym in his parents'
Yeah,
basement.
yeah,
Have
that's
you
another
checked it
thing.
out
Yeah,
before?
I've never been to his gym. No, no. Normally, when I'm in New Hampshire, I literally just stay at Tyson's house.
Yeah.
Uh, I stay at his son's room, his youngest son, Lawson's room, and play video games and go to the gym, and that's about it.
Yeah, I love it. Keeping it simple. That's the way to go. Now, I'm gonna jump right back to your roots before I get back to your New England Cartel team. What got you interested in fighting as a kid?
I'm when I was pretty young, I was like 12 or 13. I was really into WWF. I'd watch it all the time. I played the video games and all that stuff. My dad walks in the room, throws a DVD on the bed, tells me, "Whenever you're done watching that fake stuff, uh, watch this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." So I popped in the DVD a little bit later, uh, turned it on. I like skipped a couple of the first fights because I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. I didn't understand grappling at all. I didn't understand any of that. But I skipped to Yves Edwards versus Josh Thompson, and that fight was awesome. Yves Edwards did like a mat return at him. Josh Thompson popped back up, fought hands, did like a spinning back fist, and when he did the spinning back fist, Yves Edwards jumped in there, head kicked him, and knocked and TKO'd him, punched him a couple more times on the ground. And I don't know why, but from that moment, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I want to try this. I want to do this." Uh, and that's what kind of got me addicted. And I right away I asked my dad, "Will you teach me how to box?" And then he said, "Yeah." I started doing like Japanese jiu-jitsu in my hometown of Wilmer, and just looking for things that could like improve me as a mixed martial artist. I joined wrestling in high school and joined as a freshman and got my butt whooped every day. But yeah, I just looked for anything that could improve me toward my goal that I wanted.
Makes sense. I love that roots. I think a lot of kids have to convince their parents about martial arts, or at least like mixed martial arts. And so I guess your dad supported you right away. What was it like? Did he teach you how to train, or did he just bring you to training? Like, did he have any background in it?
So he boxed when he was younger.
Yeah.
He never like competed or anything like that, but he was kind of like a ruffian in his days. Like he got in a lot of street fights and stuff like that. But he taught me. He taught me like obviously the basics and things like that. And even today, like now he's my coach for like mitts and stuff like that. So he holds mitts for me, and we go over like game plans like for whoever we're fighting and things like that. So he still to this day helps me every other day, holding mitts for me and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, no, he's super supportive of it. It's funny because when I was younger, I guess I didn't know this, like, but when I was younger, I'd watch like old kung fu movies and stuff, like Bruce Lee movies and all that stuff, and I'd like punch at the air and do all this stuff, like kick and stuff. And my mom would always tell him, he's not gonna be a fighter like you. He's not gonna end up fighting in the streets like you all the time. Stop it. Stop trying to show him this stuff. And so that's why I never like learned anything when I was younger. And then lo and behold, I'm 13 asking them how to start doing stuff. So yeah, no, they both are supportive of it. Like I said, that once I wanted to do it, they found the jiu-jitsu gym in Wilmer. We went to the Golden Gloves, like to take me to practice. I'd go to wrestling practice, and then right after I'd go to boxing practice. So it was and another thing he always told me is like you kind of prove what you want, right? Like you can say you want to do something, but it's your actions that show what you really want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like I even today, like there's guys in my local gym that's like, "Oh, I want to fight," but they only show up to one practice a day when they could be at two, or do strength and conditioning and go to practice. It's just it's your words can be one thing, but it's your actions that prove what you want. And I think from that age of 13, I was darn near like 200 pounds, and I ended up being like 145 by the end of the summer. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, it seems like it did something good for you. Now, and obviously, since your dad had a fighting background, or at least as a kid, Dana White said this about you. He said,
Can't teach that dog. You either have that dog inside you or you do not.
is there anyone in your bloodline, like along with your dad, that is like that mentally and physically strong that maybe you get these genetics or like fighting spirit from?
Honestly, both of my parents, my mom, my dad, uh, yeah, they're both very tough individuals. Like even like my grandmother, Josephina, she's a Puerto Rican woman, came here when she was like a baby, pretty much. My great grandma brought her over from Puerto Rico, but like maybe not in like the fighting sense, but like as a person, like she works her tail off and never complains. Never like if she's tired, you'll never hear her say she's tired. She just does. She just goes like if I show up at her house, she'll be like, "Oh, mijo, are you hungry?" and like start cooking and stuff for me. It's like, "Oh no, grandma, I can't have that right now," stuff like that. But like pretty much the people I grew up around, like especially like I said, my parents and like my grandma, um, and even my grandpa and grandma from my dad's side, like they're all just like hard-nosed people, you know. Like my grandma, I feel like should retire, but she doesn't want to because she wants to work, you know. Yeah, I feel like my family overall, that's kind of maybe a generic answer, but honestly, like everybody around me so much tougher than me, I feel like. I feel like a baby compared to them, really, honestly, like in the sense of I can go through pain or whatever and be like, I feel like I'm a complainer in comparison to them because they won't say a thing, you know? So yeah, it's the people I grew up around. So it's like, I gotta reflect that, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. And it comes from a hardworking family trying to improve their life every day. So having that environment, it's always good. Now life as a fighter is not easy, and obviously because of like, your upbringing of like very having tough people around you, being hardworking yourself. Being a fighter is not easy. Do you work any other jobs, if you don't mind me asking, along with, fighting?
Yeah, no, I don't actually. I was very lucky. So I it was after my first professional loss that I ever had. I was like, man, I wish pretty much I trained more and stuff like that. But me and my wife had a conversation and stuff like that, and we were trying for a kid at the time and stuff like that. So pretty much for like 2, 3 years, we saved up money so that I could quit my job and then start training full time and be a stay-at-home father. Um, so I was very like blessed and lucky to be able to have a wife that would support me in that manner. So we just saved up money, and luckily it all paid off to you know, I'm in the UFC now, so uh, yeah, so we saved up money for about 2 to 3 years. I can't remember exactly how long, but once we had our kid, and I quit my job. And but I used to work at a recycling company, an electronic recycling company, but I haven't worked at a real job in like 3 years.
Yeah. Well, hey, shout out to your wife. I know you in every interview I've seen you do, you always like give her credit, your wife Jessica, your daughter Alessia. How, like, when you're in training camp, right? Like, what do the responsibilities look like at home? Like, who does what? Like, obviously, having a kid, it's definitely a lot of work. It's also a blessing. Like, how do you work together and like balance that? Because I think these are things that like casual fans don't realize, like how challenging, but also how like beautiful it is life as a fighter because you work hard together with your family to achieve dreams.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's obviously challenging in certain ways, just uh, having a kid, and it makes certain things different. Like you can't just leave the house whenever you want and things like that. But for the most part, we're really lucky. Like she works for Capital One, and she's remote, so she stays home. And a lot of times, like Alessia, my daughter, just stays home with her. Uh, other than that, like if maybe she has a lot of meetings or something in the day, or she has like a really busy work week or something, I'll bring her to the gym. And Alessia is pretty good at the gym. She doesn't cry, or she's a very calm, chill child. We're pretty lucky with that. But so yeah, like it's pretty much like we communicate and figure out like do I need to bring her to the gym or not? And normally it's no. Normally Jess can handle it and kind of keep that under control. uh, I'm very lucky though. Like I'm sure not uh like married people in that sense. Like she's very selfless in that sense. Like she takes on a lot, and you know, that's why I always mention it. I do appreciate it. I wish I wish I could help out more, obviously, but yeah, it's just I offer plenty, I guess, in the sense of like bringing her to the gym because she does enjoy the gym. She loves the gym. She loves Brock, but I think just sometimes it's just easier to keep her home. And yeah, things work out though. It's pretty it works well. Like everything's pretty smooth as of now.
Exactly. Every family's different, and it seems like you guys are all working hard because you love each other. So it's very wholesome to hear. Now, one last family question, because you mentioned your daughter loves the gym. How would you feel? Would you ever let her be a fighter?
Ugh. I mean, I will never stop her from doing something if she wanted to do it. Um, but I would be honest. I'd be brutally honest, you know, like
Yeah.
that's one thing about like my dad. Like he's always been very honest with me. Like if he feels like I'm being lazy, he'll tell me. Or you like for the longest time he said I should be at 35. And like he was just honest. Like he doesn't, not that he doesn't care about my feelings, because I do believe he cares about my feelings, but he just said what he believes,
Yeah.
whether it's right or not. He says it, you know, because he's trying to help. So I'd be brutally honest. Like if I seen her say like, "Oh, I want to do this," and then I seen how she trained, and if it was like training once a week, twice a week, and doing these things, I'd be like, "No, you're not gonna do this, because you're gonna get hurt. Because there's gonna be somebody like me that's training twice a day. Even when I worked a full-time job, I was training twice a day and making sure I was in the gym and doing everything I felt I should do, right?
Yeah.
And even and there's other guys that I've seen like Tyler Matheson, my old teammate, he's at Extreme Couture now, but that guy is a workaholic. Like he would work a full-time job, go train twice a day, and then go lift and do so much extra, right? Like there's always someone outworking you, and you got to kind of keep that in your mind and always try to perfect your craft, whether you're at home, whether you're at the gym. Like there's too many people, I feel like, that they work out in the gym, okay, I'm done, and that's the end of it. No, you kind of got to be obsessed in a way, like you doing it in the mirror, and like people might see it from the outside and think it's silly or whatever, but you have to be obsessed about it. I feel like honestly, I constantly think about fighting. I love fighting, that's why I do it. But if she didn't have that, I would be honest and be like, don't do this because you're gonna get hurt. And like you might be talented or whatever, but eventually a person that's maybe not as talented as you might beat you because they have that in them, and they're killing themselves to become something, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And because you care about her, you're not going to tell her what she wants to hear. You're going to tell her what she needs to hear.
Yeah,
And in
definitely.
terms of hard work, you're surrounded by a lot of hard workers at the New England Cartel whenever you go there. Your manager and coach, Tyson Chartier. Connor told me a really funny story about Tyson. What's your funniest Tyson Chartier story?
Funny Tyson Chartier story. Uh, I'm not I'm not really sure, I guess. Man, I mean, he says a lot of outlandish things, but I can't really think of anything that's like too crazy. He he's just a funny guy in my opinion. I don't know. I've been around him quite a bit. Like I said, like I've been out to New Hampshire about twice now, three times maybe. I can't recall. But yeah, nothing like that stands out. He is a hilarious guy, don't get me wrong. It's just I can't really think of a thing right now that I could like pull out of my pocket.
That's cool. That's cool. Connor actually mentioned that Tyson also has like no filter and it's funny.
No
And
filter.
250. All right, we're live. Let me see. I gotta wait till. Do you wait till people join it, or can you just share it?
No one cares about it.
Dude, you don't know. You don't know. We'll see.
no matter what,
No
though,
filter.
he can get away with it in MMA because there's someone exists by the name of Sean Strickland. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
taking it to
no.
a whole nother level. I don't know if anyone's pushed the buttons as much as Sean, but I saw
Honestly, I think I think if Tyson were to talk the way he talks around the guys in a public setting, he would not to like the not like in a how you say like in a controversial way,
Yeah.
but he just says some outlandish stuff.
yeah, he's just funny. It's a different type of humor. I
It's
understand
gym
that.
talk, you know?
Yeah,
Gym
yeah,
talk.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, one more question about your team. There's a lot of Boston, like Yankees versus Red Sox type matchups going on. We have Aljamain Sterling from the Long Island against Calvin Cater from the Cartel at UFC 300. We also have Connor Matthews representing Boston against Dennis Bazooka at UFC Atlantic City. Bazooka is
No.
Sterling's teammate. Have these guys teased you about Minnesota sports, or what's the interactions with the Boston guys like Calvin Cater, Rob Font, about, Minnesota sports? Because Boston,
Yeah,
they
no.
do have a lot of championships,
Yeah,
not as
yeah.
many as the Yankees, but yeah.
Yeah, no. Honestly, like I'm kind of ignorant to other sports. Like I know the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl, and they're kind of like bad in that sense. But like when it comes to like baseball and like hockey and other things like that, I don't follow too much. Like honestly, the only sport I really watch is boxing and MMA.
Yeah.
For the most part, like they try to get me into what's the thing that Tyson loves? It's like racing. It's
The Formula One.
Formula One. Yeah. So like they love that stuff too. But I mean, they don't really talk too much shit, and if they do, I'm like, huh? What are you talking
Yeah.
about? Because I don't know much about other sports, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, hey, if you win this fight, the Minnesota Twins baseball team, they're probably gonna call you out to throw a first pitch before the game. Don't mention the Yankees to them. My guys beating them too much. Nothing but respect. But now I'm gonna jump into a couple rapid fire questions to finish this interview off. You're a bantamweight now, O'Malley or Vera at UFC 299. Who do you think's gonna win?
Unfortunately, O'Malley.
Got it. Now, one more from me. What's the next Minnesota sports team to win a championship?
Man, that's like I said, it's a little ignorant to it. I know for sure not the Vikings. I'm gonna take a guess and say the Timberwolves, maybe.
They are a good team. I believe they're in second place in the West. Everyone's healthy, so I'm looking forward to it. I think basketball is really interesting this year because there's no like clear-cut best team. So now, Angel, could I end this off with a message for your sponsors, the people around you, the people that have supported you that you like to shout out?
Yeah, for sure. Um, this camp so far, I've only got one sponsor. It's M&M Painting and Construction. That's Eric Means. He trains with me. He's a blue belt also under Brock. He's an awesome guy. He sponsors like all the fighters pretty much at our gym, and he'll even like jump into our MMA practice if we need an extra body. Like he's the man. We all appreciate him. Obviously, my wife, my Jessica, my daughter Alessia, my parents Esther and David, my sisters even. When I first started training, they were like my main sparring partners and stuff. My sisters and my parents. So it's come a long way, obviously, from going to that to going out to the cartel and everybody here in Minnesota at start. My head coach Brock Larson, everybody out in New Hampshire, the cartel guys. I'm just super honored and blessed to be able to go out there and train here with everybody. I just feel super lucky for this opportunity. I'm ready to perform and I'm ready to have fun in the cage.
Well, Angel, it was an honor to interview you. Such a warrior in you. I'm really excited that my home state of New Jersey gets to experience your fight. Can't wait to see you in the Garden State. Best of luck, and wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Sorry. Are you out of your mind? That was incredible. I know you did. I could tell you wanted to win, man. We're going to pay you your win money, too. That was fucking incredible.